starting the show now. Welcome to the Hog of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 337 of East Central's favorite podcast. Jeremiah Morrill, joined by, I guess we'll call him a co-host. Devin Guffey is here, executive video producer, audio engineer, Zach Burcham, Dakota Davis. We have been in a break between the Patreon and the main show, and it's been O.J. Simpson talk because obviously we're talking to judges. We got our Lancito here. We got to work through this today. Dakota, what do we have planned?
Today's episode features Mr. Joe Lansinger. He was last on episode number 314, but this time he is running for Henry County Circuit Court number 3 in the Republican primary, and we're going to be talking to him. We're kind of going to, first of all, break down what the major differences are from your current job to the job that you are applying for.
Okay.
And then we're going to be talking about your background and the responsibilities and kind of your views of the court system. So this is an important episode. Make sure you stick around until the very end of the show.
Today's show is about our lives in rural Indiana. We're here to push your boundaries and make you think as individuals. Sometimes we'll provoke you. Other times we'll make you laugh. But hopefully you'll always learn something new. We are hitting the air probably a good 15 to 20 minutes later than we normally would like to have because we had such an incredible time on Patreon. If you want to hear it and hear the long wandering walk through Hanover College to Western Europe,
we could have run Patreon for 40 minutes.
We
had a topic going before, and we stopped with the Patreon, and then we went on to a whole different side stream right before.
Could have kept going.
So we've been.
I blame the Hofbrauhaus.
I love Germany. You
can't trust them. So if you want to know what all that's about, patreon.com/BallsHogOfLiberty. Sign up at any level. You will get the Patreon file, the podcast emailed directly to you. You get an RSS feed. You can listen to it on any platform you want to in your podcatcher of choice. And then we add you to a super special Facebook group where you get to talk to us. You get the show notes ahead of time, so you get to know who the candidates are going to be. You get to see kind of the outline of our rough idea of what a show is going to be, but Lord knows we tear that up instantly as soon as we start. But if you want to be a part of that, jump in the Patreon group. You are what supports the show and gets us from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Because there are costs associated with this, Dakota.
That's right. If you sign up at $50 or more a month, then you also get a shout-out at the front of every episode and whatever you are trying to sell. Those folks, Mr. Jonathan Phillips from all the way selling cars, slinging cars in Fishers, Indiana, Andy Moore Buick and GMC. Then we have Mr. Anthony Meyer, who is keeping America running, doing his very best to keep the country just stocked up on everything. And then we have Sports Corner in Newcastle, Indiana. They are also a $50 a month club member. We appreciate them very much.
I just sent Blake Reese the Boss Hog logo file, the shirt I'm wearing here. I'm going to try to have him put 4 or 5 of these together for me. And I'm going to have myself some embroidered Boss Hog shirts.
I love it. I'm ready to see it. I have a good idea. I had a good idea for a St. Patty's Day shirt for us to wear to the On Tap event, and was going to reach out to him. But then I literally made the design on my phone, and I sent it to Audrey, and then I got an ad on Instagram for someone who had made very close the exact same shirt. It was like a cartoon picture of St. Patrick, and he was, pointing at the snakes, and I had a speech bubble that said, "Go on, get." And I was going to put that on the back, and I was going to make it a green shirt and put the Boss Hog logo on the front, put that on the back, and then I sent it to Audrey. I was like, "Hey, can you make this?" And then I got on Instagram, and there was a T-chip ad for almost the exact same shirt. It was absolutely crazy. But
so,
anyway,
so is now a new famous shirt designer.
Yeah.
That's right. Or you're stealing from them, they're stealing from you. This is the very beginning of the 2024 primary candidate series. We have returning sponsors, a returning sponsor and a brand new sponsor.
That's right. Returning sponsor would be Wyland's Flowers and Gifts here in Newcastle, Indiana. They are the official wedding flower supplier for the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. They did both of our weddings.
Mm-hmm.
They are
someday
the
they'll do Devin's wedding.
maybe one day.
Hopefully, yeah.
But we appreciate them very much. They've been with us since the beginning of the candidate series, and they've always been good to us in our personal lives and then also on the podcast side. And then very brand new this year, we have the Ink and Ale Brew House, which is coming very soon to Newcastle, Indiana. That is the brewery that is going to be located at the Courier-Times building in Newcastle, Indiana. They are a proud sponsor of the Boss Hog of Liberty candidate series, and we're very thankful to have them along the ride with us.
So there hasn't been a lot of information about the ale and Ink and Ale yet, but I've got a little bit of breaking news for you guys to tell you what they're going to be. They're going to be hopefully open by the time of the pub crawl in April. So next month, potentially going to be open. Going to be a place for corporate events and special group parties. It's going to be a axe throwing facility, so you're going to be able to go downtown and throw some axes. Also going to have a golf simulator, so you get all kinds of stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Craft burgers and smash burgers down there too. So on one side of downtown you can get a gourmet hot dog. The other side of downtown you can get yourself a gourmet burger. That's a pretty good deal. I'm excited.
Heck yeah.
I'm pretty excited.
And
Newcastle's
then
turned
you
into a
can go
pretty
to
fine
the-
city.
You can go to the Blue River the last weekend of April, catch some rainbow trout.
That's right. Trout
true.
season's coming on. All right. With all of the business out of the way, we get to actually talk to our special guest, Judge Joe Lansinger. Welcome back, sir.
Glad to be back.
All right. So you were here on the Pie episode 314, 3.14, and you were running for the city judge.
Yes.
Congratulations, you won.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
now we're back again. Help us understand the city judge job. For those that don't remember, that court meets once a month or a couple times a month
Once
on
a week.
Fridays, right?
Yeah, it's averages out three times a month.
3 times a month.
Yeah, Fridays.
So courts on Fridays there. That's not a full-time job.
Correct.
You have private. You
I have-
currently do private practice.
Yes, I have a private practice here in Newcastle. In fact, I'm next door neighbors with Wyland's Flowers.
That's right.
Oh, there we go.
So I wave to them and they wave to me, and
You get all the good smells.
yes.
Yeah, there you go.
So tell us, I guess we'll start at the beginning. The bio for you, so folks can remember who you are. If they don't want to go back to episode 314 and listen, remind folks about your story and how,
Sure.
how you came to be, Joe.
Well, born in Muncie, but that's because they didn't have the labor and delivery unit here in Newcastle yet, I don't think. Or they didn't at the time. So from Newcastle my whole life.
They were only delivering babies on Fridays, much like the city
Exactly,
court.
exactly.
So
So
they sent your mom to Muncie.
Basically, you guys are just old.
Yeah. Yeah, I just turned 42, and my boys said, "You're twice the drinking age." I said, yep, yes, I guess I am. But went to Newcastle at the time, Newcastle Chrysler High School. Graduated in 2001. Went to Hanover College, where I majored in English. I always appreciated one of my English teachers, Mrs. Carmody, and she said, "If you're not sure what major you want to be, just do English. You already speak it. You already read it." She said, "A bad novel is better than a good textbook. So if you're gonna be reading a bunch anyway." But hey, so I majored in English.
That's a valid point.
Yeah, and then went to IU Law School, the Indianapolis campus.
Boiler up, boiler up.
There is no Purdue Law School, Devin.
But
Or he might have tried.
yeah, graduated in 2007 from there, and moved back to Newcastle. I got married in the meantime. Right after graduation, I married my wife. She was my fiance at the time, but married Jennifer Lansinger now. It was Jenny Drake. She went to Newcastle schools too. We moved back to Newcastle and started our family, and I've been practicing law in a few days shy of 16 years now.
Your law career is almost old enough to drive.
Yeah, yes. And I've been the Newcastle city judge for 12 years. I'm entering my fourth term, and so I've been doing that for quite a while. I enjoy it. I do enjoy it, but I had made a personal goal when I'm the first time that there's an election open. Once I turn 40, I'm going to run. And so I made that a personal goal. That's what my plan was going to be, I'd planned on running for one of the circuit court positions, but that's the timeline that I set for myself.
So this is a competitive judges race. There's currently a judge there. So
Yes.
we have two folks. Judge McCord was invited. He's out of town. Wasn't able to make it tonight, but we are going to hopefully have him on in April. So he's going to get the opportunity to sit with us, and we'll chat with Judge McCord as well. Tell us about the way that Indiana sets up our county court systems.
Sure.
So you're in a city court, but then we have county has we have what three. We have a superior court and then some circuit courts that represent Henry County.
No, Henry County only has circuit courts now.
Okay.
It's a unified circuit court. Every county in the state has a circuit court. I think maybe a couple of those real little counties like Orange or Switzerland, they might have a circuit that covers
A couple of them.
Yes, but every absent that sort of thing, every county has a circuit court, and that's a court of general jurisdiction. So your probate issues, an estate or a will gets probated, your guardianships, your adoptions, your divorces, your criminal cases, suing your personal injury, somebody gets hurt, somebody wants to sue their over a contract dispute. That's what goes into circuit court. Superior courts, I know because you had asked me this in advance, and you said, what's the difference? There's really not that much of a difference because there's one circuit court. There can be divisions of it, and that's what we have, and then there can be different superior courts. From what I was able to find out, the main difference is the superior courts have a mandatory retirement age for the judges, and circuit courts don't.
Okay.
And so I think that's why a lot of these counties went to getting rid of the superior courts, because these judges weren't ready to retire, and so they thought, I'm gonna keep working. But superior courts are also a court of general jurisdiction. So the same things that a circuit court would hear, a superior court would hear. There's really just not a whole lot of difference on a day-to-day basis.
So we have three of these courts in Henry County.
Yes, and Circuit Court 1 and 2 they handle the family law cases, the divorces, the paternity. They handle the major felony criminal cases, the Circuit Court, and then major disputes, disputes that are more than $10,000. Then your Circuit Court 3 has the same jurisdiction. I mean, it could do those things, but the way that the local rules are set up is Circuit Court 3, that court handles lower level felonies, misdemeanors, traffic tickets. They handle small claims, so it disputes less than $10,000, evictions. It's a lot higher volume of a court, but there is less. As far as for criminal defendants, there's not as much exposure to prison time because it's lower levels. The disputes are not as great as far as if someone's suing, it's for smaller amounts of money.
So how does that get determined? You said the local courts have done that. Do the judges at the time say, "Hey, here's how we're going to split this up," or is the state involved? How do they decide? Here's this court 3 is going to be responsible for X, Y, or Z.
Well, years ago, before we had our new courthouse here, you had Circuit Court, which was in the old courthouse, the big courtroom. So if you go in there,
where the commissioners and the council meet now.
And then Superior Court was in there, but it was kind of like just in a small room off to the side. And then Superior 2 was actually in another building down, I think it's where the furniture store is now on Broad.
Yep.
And
was the Hope Initiative building for a while.
Yes, that's right. And then when they built the new courthouse, they kept Circuit Court, Superior 1, Superior 2. And I don't know, probably about 10 years ago, I think, is when they unified it to 3 circuit courts. I think part of the idea behind it was that from a budget standpoint, they could share a budget rather than having 3 separate. it really didn't change it wouldn't have changed the public's perception of what's happening at the courthouse. It's more of a behind-the-scenes difference.
So, does the judge have a staff?
Yes.
How many people work for a court?
Okay. Well, I can't speak as to other counties, but in Henry County, each of the 3 circuit courts here have 3 staff members, and you have a court reporter for every court, and a lot of times they trade off some duties depending on what's going on, and you have a bailiff, and then just kind of their support staff, mans the front window, handles scheduling. They do a lot of work. The women that work for these courts, they have so much on their plate. It's really something how much they do, and then people call and they get upset. And be nice to the people at the courthouse. They are doing a ton of work, so be patient, and they do a good job.
Very good. So from my side, I guess to me we have to be careful. By the way, there are certain things that a judge's race is very different as to what we can talk about in the campaigning. So the questions that we're asking are, one, I want to be educational about what the courts are, because I think it's a very low information race for our audience. Because for me particularly, I can't remember us in my adult lifetime having a competitive circuit court race.
That's why I love the podcast. Like, I learned so much from this podcast.
So, with that said, I guess I wanted to ask some questions about the way the court is set up and defined, and then maybe get into some of your motivations and why, what thought process you bring, or what you can talk about on the campaign side.
It is interesting. You pointed out that for a judicial candidate, whether I was a judge before or not, any judicial candidate has specific rules they've got to follow, and it's interesting because if you're running for pretty much any other position in the country, whatever level, you can say pretty much anything. You can say almost,
from the very top office down.
Yes, you can say anything, and but for judicial candidates, you're very limited. I can say things like, I will make the court run more efficiently, or I will. One thing that I plan on doing, I know Judge McCord has been talking about doing this for some time, but I would make it a priority to have a mental health court. It's a serious need in Henry County, where you have people that are charged with crimes where the real issue is they have serious mental health issues that need to be addressed. It's not a criminal mind we're talking about. We already have a veterans court and a drug court that's in Circuit Court 2 with Judge Crane, but we desperately need a mental health court, and I would make that
That's
a priority.
crazy. That was so close to making it onto the questions list.
And that's
okay.
we've had the of course we
Since
elect our prosecutors here, and we've talked about the drug courts and the veterans courts with them. How do those come to be? How can you just say, hey, as a judge, does the judge decide?
No.
Or are there certain things that the law allows that you can select from and say, hey, we're going to have that mental health court in Indiana, in Henry County?
Sure. There's an office of, and I'm not going to get it right, so I'm not going to try. There's an office that's part of court administration, part of the Supreme Court, the Indiana Supreme Court office that handles what's called problem-solving courts, and that's what these are. There are some counties. Another type of problem-solving court would be a family court, where sometimes you have a situation where there's a pending divorce, there's a domestic battery, there's a child custody issue, and it all, instead of having the divorce in this court, the domestic battery or the protective order in another, it kind of wraps it all together into one unit, so it can be dealt with as a whole. The drug court's a very common problem-solving court, and and the Veterans Court is similar to the drug court, but it has specific services that are available to veterans that are different than what the drug court can provide.
Working with the VA instead of
Yes.
exclusively. Okay, makes sense. So, do you think that the mental health court, is that something you think specifically would fall and fit into the oversight of Circuit Court number 3? Or is
It would be something that has. I couldn't. Let's say I win this election. I can't just say we're going to have a mental health court. It's with coordination with the state.
okay?
I don't. There would likely have to be some redistribution of a caseload,
Responsibilities and things.
and so
someone could
so that's
take it
something
over.
where all 3 judges would have to kind of put their heads together and say, how are we going to do this? Like,
Okay.
for example, Circuit Court 1 handles all of the cases that have to do with juveniles, juvenile delinquency, child in need of services cases, the cases that Department
Who's
of
the
Child.
judge in Circuit Court number 1?
That's Judge Bob Witham,
Okay.
and so he doesn't. So that court doesn't have as many major felonies as, say, Circuit Court 2,
The wheels are turning in
Because-
Dakota's head now.
because
the purpose of
he
my
has
question.
more of those. So Judge Crane has more criminal cases, but will do maybe fewer family law cases because he's got the drug court and the
Okay.
and the vet court.
Okay.
Tell us about your experiences. We kind of went from, hey, you got out of law school to you've been serving as the city judge, but the other 4 days a week you're arguing in these courts as well, or your caseload is going through.
Yes, I do a lot of. I work part time in the public defender's office, and I enjoy doing that because I like being in court. My private office, I do a lot of bankruptcies for people. My dad, he's retired now, going on 3 years. I worked with him for 13 years until he retired. He'd been at that office for mid-70s. And so, and he did a lot of bankruptcy work. So I do that. I enjoy doing that because it really helps. I get to see the actual result of what I'm helping my clients do, which is get a fresh start.
They're getting out of a bad situation.
Yes, they're
and
getting out of a hole that they
things
would
clean.
have a very difficult time otherwise. So I like doing that. I don't do as much family law anymore. I think that just has to do with it grinds you down.
Yep.
I told myself when I turned 40, that I think I was maybe 35, and I said when I'm 40, I'm not going to do any more divorce cases. I'm not going to do any more family law. At 38, I gave up divorce cases. I couldn't make it to 40, but now I'm back doing them because I need my wife jokes that I need the money more than I need my sanity. So,
It sounds like you set a lot of goals, a lot of milestones
Yes.
of by this date I want to achieve X.
Yeah.
Just seeing how you tick.
yeah, a little bit of that. I guess the funny thing is it all has to do with being 40. I felt like that's the age where you're a real grown up then. You're a real grown up when you turn 40. So
So tell me really quick, because I don't know, the circuit court judge, that's a full-time
that is
job.
full time. Yes,
So would
It's
you
just-
be giving up your private practice?
I would, and that's something that I had to. That was a big decision. We own the building, and so if I could always go back to doing that if things changed. There are procedures in how to phase out of that, so it's not my clients would not be left high and dry. They would be.
Because
we would be
obviously
able to
you may
sort
have
things out.
you may have things that are in court 3 that you have you have to
Oh,
work
absolutely.
through that.
Yes, absolutely. Because, and so, but as far as like my clients for other types of things, we would definitely get them taken care of. If need be, we can put them in touch with someone who can finish it up. I'm confident that some of my friends on the local bar will help out with that. So it's not going to cost my clients more just because I'm moving on to something different.
All right. So let's move on here to basically just what you would look like, what the circuit court number 3 would look like with Judge Joe Lansinger, and any basic fundamental differences that you could see happening in the future.
That's one of the things that I really can't.
I know. I was trying to word that
yeah,
in such a careful way, and I still.
He can talk about efficiency.
I can say I will run things more efficiently.
Safer, better, faster.
Yes, exactly. That's I'm prohibited from saying, well, I'm going to put people away for longer, or I'm going to be ruled in this way or that way. Can't do that. I will say that there are some things that I think I can improve upon in the way that the court is administered.
Can we talk about just the general philosophy that you have as a judge and how your past experience in that line of work would inform going forward?
Well, one thing that I think is really important to do when you're sitting in judgment is to remember that whether it's a small dispute or a large dispute, it's a big deal for whoever is there in court. If it's a minor criminal offense, it is still a very big deal for that person there. That's the most important thing that's going on in their life right now. And sometimes it can be hard, it can be easy to forget that and think it's just another one of these cases. But to that person, that's the most important thing that's happening in their life.
They're not just a cog in the machine. It's their life.
You have to, and so I would say, if I would say anything, I would use my best discretion to handle each case on a case-by-case basis, rather than say, for these types of cases, this is what the sentence is going to be, and for these types, this is what it's going to be. The Indiana Code gives judges large discretion. An example would be for an A misdemeanor. The possible penalty for an A misdemeanor is 0 days in jail up to a year in jail. And there's a reason that the legislature gives the judge that discretion, is because every person is different, every case is different. And so I really will not take a cookie-cutter approach to it. Another example would be like license suspensions. If someone gets charged with a OVWI, DUI, first of all, their license gets suspended by the BMV. It's an administrative suspension, and depending on the case, there's different links to that. But the court can impose certain suspensions, ranging depending on the case from 0 days up to a year. There may be a case where somebody gets a DUI that doesn't need to have their license suspended for 3 months. That will do more harm than good.
They'll lose their job.
Yes.
They'll lose their house.
And
they're
then,
gonna, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. So things like that.
Families will be impacted.
I want to make sure that that I always keep in mind that, again, this is it may be something that I see 100 times, but for that person, it's their whole world is going on right now. So to keep that in mind and to handle things on a case-by-case basis. And I do that in Newcastle City Court also. The stakes are lower, but still, for a lot of people, the only court experience they have is Newcastle City Court. And so I do the best, and I think I do a good job. I do the best I can to make it a good legal experience for them. I know some city and town courts that I've heard of, because I go to the city and town court meetings. Some of them run in such a way that you ever see the movie? What's it called now? Nothing But Trouble. With Bruce Willis and Demi Moore, and they get pulled into this municipal court, and it's just like a nightmare. I wouldn't say they're quite like that, but it's definitely a stark contrast from what you'd find in a circuit court. And I do my best for my court to run, even though it's in the city building, it's in the city council chambers. We make it a legal proceeding.
You spoke earlier about the the discretion that judges have, say a misdemeanor conviction, and it could be 1 day. You could be 0 days to to 365 days.
Yes.
A lot of times you'll see a judge say 1 day in jail and the rest is suspended. Essentially, that's a tool that they have.
And that is generally what you see. I would say 99 times out of 100, you're going to see, whether it's through a plea agreement or through what the judge orders, you're going to see for an A misdemeanor, it's going to be a 1-year sentence. And all of it's suspended, or all but 5 days are suspended, or all but 30 days. Now, you get some people that don't learn their lesson, and the suspended sentence is not helping them.
You do that 3 or 4 times,
yes.
and all of a sudden it's not working.
Yes, exactly. And depending on the situation, I mean, if it's within a short period of time, again, that's something where we would look into say, is this person a better candidate for a drug court or a mental health court? Is there a reason that? And I know people are going to say, oh, I'm being light on criminals, but we have to look at the big picture and think, well, is there a reason why this individual is just all of a sudden they haven't had any criminal history for 35 years and now they've got 3 arrests in 2 weeks? So there's a difference between the career criminal and the person who's made some mistakes here and there. I mean, ideally, no one's breaking the law, but it's going to happen.
The next question that I had is somewhat around that, and it's a fiscal question for the county, but I know that the judges are involved in the judicial, the justice system for Henry County. Just built a new jail, and you read the council is trying to set aside money right now to add another pod onto our county jail because it's our county detention facility, whatever the official term is, that it's full. Does the court have any influence in the population of that, or is it just it's a function of what we have and we have to react?
No, the court plays a role. All of the courts play to some extent a role in how many people are in the jail. Obviously, there are people that are charged with an offense that should not be out and about. Someone charged with murder, there's a presumption that person cannot bond out, so they're going to sit in jail. For other major offenses, oftentimes the bond is too high for someone to afford to get out, and so they're sitting in jail waiting for their case to be resolved. But there are instances where people are sitting in jail for several days for driving while suspended, for low-level marijuana offenses, that's putting some burden on the jail system. That maybe there are better ways than to incarcerate someone for some of these types of offenses.
Because during COVID, as we had these candidate series, and we heard from sheriff's candidates, we heard from prosecutor candidates, they were talking about, well, the courts are really backed up because we couldn't do any trials for a period of time. So it's like, okay, we built this new jail facility, it filled up during COVID, and you thought, okay, once we get the courts reopened, the logjam's going to break and the population's going to drop back down. But it doesn't really feel like that's happened. We're now at the point where they're itching to turn shovels to add on to this facility.
And it's not because the population of Newcastle has grown or Henry County has grown.
Right.
I mean, I've heard people say it doesn't matter how big you make it, we'll move to fill it. Obviously there'd be some limits to that, but and I can't remember. I think it was maybe the architect. I was reading that article in the Courier this morning. I can't remember if it was the architect that said it. That let's plan for more space when things are not filled up. Let's plan ahead. And there's some. I think that's a good idea. But in the meantime, I think that there's some overcrowding that can be dealt with on the judicial level.
Okay.
You guys are currently teaching me so much right now. I am learning so much.
It's a civics class.
What else do you want to know, Devin?
Yeah.
I mean,
We
you
had
guys
history
are teaching
first.
me more than I learned in school, so I mean, you guys are doing pretty good.
That's just because you're paying attention here.
Yeah. You're in the front seat.
I didn't really pay attention during school. So
One thing I do want to tell you, because I promised my boys that I would, and I told you, I had texted you, I've had an issue. My campaign got off to a little bit of a rocky start, and I ordered a bunch of campaign signs, and
Now that you're a Republican, you didn't have to put the union logo on them like you did when you were a Democrat.
I have always, and that's one thing. These are partisan elections. They really shouldn't be, because a judge follows the law. There should be no politics in the courtroom. There should be no politics in the race to the courtroom. And the judicial canon, the rules that judges have to follow, or judicial candidates, it specifically says this is not to be a political issue. You're not to take political stances. I mean, I can go to the Lincoln Day dinner. I can buy myself a ticket and a ticket for a guest. I can't buy a ticket. I can't buy a table, because that's
Campaigning.
well, you can campaign, but in a way it looks like it's buying votes.
You're contributing to a party at that point.
Yes, and so my campaign is self-funded. I'm not going to ask anybody for any money, because I don't want anybody to feel, even if it's family or friends, to feel like, all right, I gave Joe some money. Let's see, I get a ticket. I can expect to.
I gave Sean Rao $1.
So I don't want that to even be.
You don't want to have any
consideration
perception of
at
it.
all.
So you bought your signs.
Yeah, so I bought my signs, and
Big, beautiful green signs. You're running in Newcastle, the green signs.
Well, it's green because it's my favorite color. When I first ran for city judge, I had green. Had good luck with that. I just like the look. I think they stand out. Also in a sea of red, white, and blue signs. Some yellow ones out there.
Mine were yellow.
Okay.
Yep.
A friend of mine said, "Now,
Golden Navy.
if you're putting these out in Middletown, you might want to get some different colors, because they're not going to like that Trojan green there." So we'll see. But at any rate, so I get the signs. I try to make them just as simple. It catches the eye, but simple. So it just said Judge Lansinger, because I am a judge, Circuit Court 3. I thought that's very straightforward. People will see it. They'll know what I'm running for.
Paid for and authorized by.
Yes, I do have that. I've got that at the bottom.
Chris Staten.
And somebody complained to the state disciplinary commission and said that it was misleading because I didn't have the word "for." All right. I guess I gave the people of Henry County a little more credit than to be confused. But I'll take care of it.
Did you get a letter?
No, I got an email.
Oh,
I got an email.
Modern era.
Well, an email's better than a letter, I suppose.
Yeah.
But my
Did they tell you to fix it, or did they just notify you that there was a complaint?
Yes, they notified me there was a
Okay.
complaint. There are what's called the Indiana Supreme Court has the final say in discipline for attorneys and judges. So if somebody screws up bad, the Indiana Supreme Court is the one that decides
Boy, I would
how are
love
we
to
going to
see
do
that
this.
go to the Supreme
Yeah,
Court.
and
Judge Joe would not.
no, I would not. And so there are
I would
some.
just love to see the judges read it like, what is this?
But there are published opinions of attorneys being disciplined for different things. Attorneys sleeping with their clients, that's a big no-no. Stealing, taking clients' money, that sort of thing. Missing a statute of limitations. Somebody comes in because they want to sue somebody, and you say, okay, I'll handle it, but then you don't get to it in time, and they lose their opportunity. Those are the kind of things you see. Attorneys getting arrested. And there's published opinions that say, this is bad, you can't do this, this guy did this, or this lady did this, and so here's the punishment. It could be a private reprimand where they publish it and they don't say the name. It could be a public reprimand where they say, hey, everybody, this person did some bad things, but we're just going to We're just going to make that known. It can be you can be suspended.
Just public
yeah,
affairs.
Just putting it out there.
yeah, we're putting it out there that this guy didn't do quite what he was supposed to. But they also have what are called advisory opinions, things that haven't come before them, but maybe have come in other states. And some of those are they're fact specific to what was in those states. And there was an advisory opinion that regarding some campaign signs is out of Alabama, I think. I should have looked closer. That's on me. Some people said, well, if it's just an advisory opinion, why don't you just leave them out? I said, I don't like that idea. So, getting stickers that say 600 of them. So I got 300 double-sided signs. My secretary, Brooke Spears, has been instrumental in helping me do this.
So you set your kids loose with a Sharpie?
Your signs went out very early, so they are in the field already. You've been tracking down all your signs out across the county?
I don't have as many out as you might think. They're just kind of spread. I wanted to get them out early for people to know that I'm a candidate, and then I'm going to get more out when it kind of fills in because I want them to stand out. So I get these fixed. Brooke has it's called a Cricut.
Yep.
Have you heard of these things?
I was going to say, did you get somebody with a Cricut?
Yes. And so we've got a bunch of 4s. Well, got that out. I get another email. And from the state, and they said, well, thank you for fixing the 4, but you really shouldn't say that it's Judge Lansinger for Circuit Court 4 because it implies that you're an incumbent. And I thought, well, if I was an incumbent, I would put re-elect. But so they said you can put City Court Judge Lansinger for Circuit Court 3. And I thought, well, I'm not printing out all that on Cricut.
I'm going to say this because Joe can't. Somebody is petty as heck in this town.
Yeah.
I felt like doing a logo of a fine-toothed comb in the corner of the sign. But, so that's frustrating.
So is there a reprint happening now, or what's the...
I was at Marcus and Graphics today.
What is the current...
There's going to be a whole new crop.
I would probably be having some fun with this, and maybe a Facebook poll of choose the new sign.
Yeah.
And get some audience engagement, and maybe and put up a few 2 or 3 different ones, and let people say, hey, this is the one we're going to use.
Yeah, when you do stuff like that, then you end up with things like boats called Bodie McBoatface.
Well, you don't
leave it up to
you don't leave a blank. You give them 3 or 4 images to select from that. You can live with any of them.
Well,
but you have some fun with it.
Yeah, and I probably should have done something like that. I spent about 2 hours on Facebook the other day, and unable to figure out how to do it, which made me kind of wonder. I shouldn't be saying that. People are going to think if you can't figure out Facebook,
you need to hire somebody. See, we're millennials now. We're not the young generation. You need somebody like Devin. That's the next group.
The Facebook generation, though. Like Facebook
but it's so much more complicated. There's like 1,000 different little buttons.
I don't really know that much about Facebook.
I'm just there's a weird. I wonder who is like the best group at Facebook because. We are like Joe and I are like the OG. It came out when I was an undergrad. You had to have an EDU.
It was when you guys.
But
and it wasn't at every school. Like it rolled out and like now.
See, Harvard got it, and then it went down to the Hanovers.
Yeah, I remember.
And then by the time I had
at Hanover now.
Yeah, by the time I had graduated, it never made it to Indiana Wesleyan in 2008.
But at the same time, like I don't know how many times I'm one of those people that can remember 3 or 4 times I opened it up and like, hey, guess we changed Facebook, and I went full angry boomer. Like, I can't find anything. What did you do with this? And
I don't know how to write on your wall.
Yeah, it's just like so. See, I could sympathize with like sometimes you'll be like, this should be easy, but I can't figure out what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah, so that was frustrating. It really was frustrating, and it's more of just I'm kind of kicking myself, saying, come on, Joe, I should have looked into it further, but it just if you're not trying to mislead someone, you're not thinking that this is misleading. I went into it with my hands clean, and turned out that was a mistake. But Marcus and Graphics is hooking me up. I'm getting some new beautiful signs soon.
The nice thing is you don't have to reorder the bases. Those were not compromised in the trouble. You
Yeah.
only need the signs. You don't need the new posts.
That is
Exactly.
true.
So, but I mean, one thing that I did a lot more campaigning the first time I ran for city court, and one thing I really enjoyed about that was going door to door and meeting people, and talking with folks that I didn't know at all, and people were more receptive than I mean, there were some people say get off the porch, but for the most part, people were receptive and polite, and you get to meet a lot of people.
What are they interested in when you talk to folks about running for judge? What kind of feedback do you get from voters?
Well, when it was city court, a lot of them said, "We have a city court." So right now, it's more of just some of the same questions that you were asking here. To what does that court do? How is that different than Judge Witham has been on the bench for a very long time. He's an excellent judge. I'm glad to be able to be in his court a lot because I learn a lot from him. And so a lot of people know about Judge Witham, and so they always say, "Well, how's that different than Judge Witham's court?" Because they know him, and Judge Crane's been doing it for a long time too. But people will ask, "So are you going to be doing like what Judge Witham does?" No, not quite. I'll be doing X, Y, and Z.
That's cool.
Very good. Well, I think we're at the point in the show where we can probably start to clean things up and get into final thoughts. You've selected the spot, Devin, that gets first dibs at final thoughts. You got anything to promote? Any more questions you wanted to ask?
When are we going fishing?
So you and I went fishing on Sunday.
I caught my first bass of the year yesterday.
You caught yourself one yesterday. It was a successful trip to Summit Lake. I didn't sink my boat, so that went well, I guess.
And the Tahoe didn't end up in the water.
And I didn't have to call a wrecker in to pull the truck out of off the boat launch. So it was all right. It was a good time.
I've seen Jeremiah launch a boat. He does a good job.
I've gotten real good at backing trailers,
Mm-hmm.
launching boats, backing trailers. I can do that pretty decently.
Now, do you have the vehicle that just does it for you?
No, I mean it's an '08 Tahoe, so it's not
Okay, so
exactly
it doesn't have-
it's not exactly modern.
Yeah, if he
But
took his GMC
I was
Denali
gonna
out
say
there,
he's got a new truck that could take it out
the
there.
2024 Denali might do it.
It's an SLT, it's not a Denali. It's mid grade. It's mid grade. It doesn't have its own.
It's got leather seats.
It doesn't have running boards that drop down. They're fixed position. It's not.
It looks
It's an extra.
pretty.
It's
It
an
looks
extra
pretty.
$20,000 to have to go to Denali. The Tahoe is a nicer vehicle to launch that boat with than the newer trucks are.
Short,
Oh,
more
really?
The short
maneuverable.
wheelbase.
He's also got
yeah.
some like beefy tires. There's no boat ramp champion going on the ramp.
Yeah,
Mm.
that thing is like every time I pull the boat with because I launched it once with the truck last year, and I used the Tahoe this spring, and I'm like I'm never getting rid of this thing. I can back it. We have a back garage that the boat gets stored in the wintertime, and it's like using a pallet jack. It's such a short little wheelbase that you could move a trailer anywhere with it. So yeah, it's definitely the right one for it. But I'm ready. I do have to confess, I did steal from the state of Indiana on Sunday. We launched the boat without an Indiana DNR launch permit because nobody would take my money. Rolled into Summit Lake. I was like, oh, no gate fee, sweet. Oh shoot, I forgot. I had to make a UE, and I went back to the gate to the park office. Winter hours, they're still closed on Saturdays and Sundays, so there was nobody there to sell me a launch sticker. So I was just waiting on a DNR officer to be standing there with his hand out, just to send me to court. But there was nobody there, so we launched for free.
We didn't catch any fish, but trust me, next time we go, we're ripping some lips.
I will say that it is the amount of compliance you have to do to go fishing at a state park. The list of junk I had to do. I had to make sure I had my fishing license, which expires. You know when a fishing license expires, Judge Joe?
The day before you want to go fishing?
April 1st. So I was able to use last year's license still.
Oh, really? I
So
didn't
it's like
know
a
that.
season. So
Okay.
it's like it
Yeah,
starts
I
like
didn't know
fishing
that
season
either. I
kind
bought
of thing.
no.
Yeah. So my fishing license was still good, and then I'm like, okay, I've got my boat trailer. Do I have my sticker on the boat trailer for my registration? Because that's tied to your name.
Right.
So that for me is like
Have to
September.
register your trailer.
And then I had to make sure that
And your boat.
my boat had its registration sticker on it. And then I needed my launch permit for the boat, which I didn't have. And then I needed to make sure that I had tracked down my annual pass to get into the state park. I needed like 5 different documents before I could actually go fishing.
And yeah, like my state park pass usually rides in the vehicle that tows the camper.
Yeah.
Which is your truck. So then to get into the Tahoe, you have to remember to grab it and move it because mine just lives in the vehicle. It doesn't. I don't keep mine in my wallet.
My Westwood pass just lives in the truck.
Yeah. So if I switch vehicles.
And that's one where I always forget to get early in the year, and so
Right.
I pay the whole year for like 3 months. Then,
Yeah.
let's go let's go hiking, let's go camping. Forgot we got to get our pass.
Yeah.
And it's September.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the
Luckily, it's cheap enough. Like
Yeah, it's
although
reasonable.
they did raise it this year finally,
You can
it's
have
still absurdly cheap.
It's definitely worth
state
it.
park passes. You usually catch a deal on them at the state fair. They'll sell a little cheaper at the state fair.
Oh, I didn't know that in the DNR building.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Because they know it's like it's August.
Yeah, I was
so-
gonna say the year's almost over.
Yeah.
We buy ours in generally November, December. There's like a sale
Yeah, they do a sale
where
where
they
you get,
give you some camping discounts.
yeah, for like it's like I usually do the $100 one where it's the park pass and then a $65 gift card, which I use for camping, and then you get a subscription to the magazine. But you can get one that's for a state park in. You can get a discount to a state. You can get a gift card to a state park
You
in.
go down and stay at
And it's just
Clifty
taken
Falls
care of.
Inn
Yeah.
over by Hanover.
Turkey Run is also a good one.
We
Turkey
definitely
Run.
I'm pro.
I got
in
lost in
for
Turkey
Mount
Run.
Summit.
I had not been to Turkey Run in years, and we snagged a spot in June. And my kids went and hung out at the pool, and I literally just hiked the entire perimeter of the far side of Sugar Creek, whatever it is, and did about 7 miles.
Our state park camping experience for the year begins tomorrow. Charlestown State Park, inaugural tow tomorrow night. Heading down there, Charlestown, Indiana. Zach, what are your final thoughts? What do you got for me?
Not much. Enjoying kind of the weather. It's up and down. Daylight savings starts this weekend.
Sunday morning.
They're taking the little bit of
Sunday,
daylight that us
Sunday.
morning people have been enjoying and just sucking it out of our souls. It doesn't matter which way it goes. I hate it no matter what.
This is when it goes right. This
No,
is
it
I'm
doesn't
so
get
excited.
right. I
It gets
don't.
because you get all the time in the evening.
I don't need it.
No,
Yes,
I
you
don't
do.
need it.
Can't they do it?
I-
next-
do.
I'll tell you what I thoroughly
We're
enjoyed
on the
this.
same
this
page, Zach.
I'll tell you what, and super. I mean, I am legit. I've loved it this last month or so. Saturday mornings, I get up when the sun comes up.
I saw
wake
Jeremiah's
up just-
sleep data. And he sleeps for like 4 hours a night. That's why he's excited because it doesn't bother him if the sun is out at 10 p.m.
Yeah, but like
I'm so happy to have the sun be out.
But
at
like
10
literally,
p.m.
like
I'm
a couple,
so happy about it. I
couple-
can be productive outside.
a couple weeks ago, like I was waking up like 8, whatever, because I'm dying during the week, so I kind of catch up on the weekend. And then a couple weeks ago, it's like I look outside, I'm like, I look, it's like, oh, it's 7:30. I'm like, I'm getting up earlier and earlier, and like they just, and I realized I got to work one day, and I work in Indy, and so I'm going the opposite direction of the sun the whole time, but I turn around and the ramp to get off at work is facing east, and I was like, oh, there's a little bit of daylight. And then I told somebody, and they're like, yeah, it's because daylight savings coming up, and they're going to take it away from you. I was like, oh, I forgot they do that to us. It's awful.
Wasn't it like New Brunswick? They're like halfway. It's like they're on the
Yeah, there's a
half
half
hour.
time zone on the east
Maybe we could do
coast.
just a compromise.
Yeah, there we
Might
go.
be Prince Edward
Just go
Island.
there.
I was in
Yeah.
I was in
Yeah,
New,
I
I
think
was in
you're
New
right.
Brunswick
30
last
minutes.
year, and they're on Atlantic time. I know that.
Okay, I think it's
But
one of those.
maybe PEI. If I
Okay.
had to guess.
30
Devin, do you have an
minutes,
opinion?
that's
Do
fine.
you know which
I'm ready-
Canadian
I'm
province
ready.
it is?
I'm ready for the daylight savings time because when it gets warmer, I'm going to be able to catch a lot more fish on topwater in the evenings.
And those
There you
fish
go.
know what time it is. They have watches, little watches.
Exactly.
All right, City Judge Joe, any final thoughts?
No, just loved being on here again. Enjoyed chatting with you guys.
I love learning from you
Yeah,
guys.
I love being a source of wisdom for someone and knowledge. But I appreciate everyone who's going to come out and vote. I said it last time. It's important. Do it. Vote early. If you need to, you can get online at the clerk's website. It has all the polling places. It has the satellite offices where you can vote early. And
So right now you can still register.
Yes,
If
you
you
can
have
register.
not, if you're not a registered voter, I think you can go to, is it indianavoters.org, Zach? You can jump on that website, put in your information, and see if you're a registered voter or not. And you have until 30 days before the primary which I would say basically April 5th, April 6th, whatever the primary date is, it should be 1 month before that.
Yep. And then you can start and then once that deadline is passed, then
That's
when
when the early voting
do
opens
early
up.
voting.
We will say, as a point of information for those that are going to vote in Indiana for the primary, you will be asked to select a ballot. So you're going to go in, you're going to say, hey, I want a list of Democrat candidates or I want a list of the Republican candidates. The majority, every contested race we have in Henry County, everybody you're going to hear from this year on the show is going to be on that Republican ballot. So
There
do
are
with that
no
information we want you to
contested
do,
Democrat ballots
but there
right
are
now.
no contested local Democrat races at this point, and there won't be in the primary. There may be additional candidates that get on in the fall, but for the primary, this is going to be a Republican show. So if you want to vote for the folks that are going to be on the candidate series, you need to pull that Republican ballot if you want to participate.
indianavoters.in.gov.
There we go. And then you can go in. I think you can actually, you probably can register online.
Yeah, there's a register to vote button. There's a checking your voting status.
Yep.
And then there's a voting by mail or traveling abroad, and you can find your voting location, and you can learn more about election security.
Absolutely.
So,
All right. Well, this is exciting.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks
for
for
sure.
coming on, Joe.
Mr. Dakota.
My final thoughts really quick. I have an old 1986 Simplicity 7119 hydrostatic garden tractor. And
Joe had no idea where you were going
I know,
until you
I
got
was
to the
thinking.
very end of that.
I knew.
So-
I knew early on.
I knew just because of the picture, because I'm aware of the story.
You saw
So-
my face.
I have this garden tractor, and it has a lot
I
of
knew it would be a
attachments.
firearm or a tractor. I didn't know which one it was going to be.
And last year I started having issues with it, and it sat for an entire year, got a flat tire, sat it in my garage at the beginning of wintertime this year because I was planned on working on it. Wound up not having the time, so I just threw in the towel and called Dennis Equipment in Newcastle. This is the first time I've taken anything to them, and it was a week and a half later, and they had replaced almost every electrical component on the machine for just a few $100s.
They
and
do
it
a good
was
job there. They really
super
do.
cheap. They were super friendly, and he was really good at explaining everything that he did. They had added a couple things, and he was really good at showing me what they did. So huge shout out to Dennis Equipment. They were awesome to work with. I was really, really impressed by their customer service and what the repairs that they were able to do that went far and above my head on getting it. And now I have the tractor back, and I'm excited to put it to use. So,
What are you going to use it for?
the first thing we're doing this year, I decided that the ditch across from my house, which is about 160 yards long and 6 yards wide, 5 to 6, depending on the area, I'm tilling it all up. I'm going to get rid of all of the grass and planting. I have a perennial wildflower seed mix.
Oh, nice.
Native flowers going down.
Yeah, so I'm going to just throw those out there.
Look at you saving the
And I'm going to
world.
put those out there, and that way I only have to mow it once a year. So,
There you go.
yeah.
Final thoughts for me. IndyCar season starts this weekend, so the BHOL Wall Racing Fantasy IndyCar League is still open, free to anybody to join. I think we've picked up about 15 or 20 members this week. Before the show went on the air, I helped Devin set up his team. He's in. He's ready to go.
That means at
He's
least 7 or 8 places for me to drop in the order.
Devin has discovered the magic of Robert Wickens and his tremendous recovery. So Devin
very
is
inspiring, very inspiring.
Devin's all about motorsports now, and he's going to do it. I bullied Dakota and said you are going to make picks this first week at least, so that the people can compete against Dakota for at least 1 week.
Yeah, I'll do it. I do it every year.
Fantasy.indycar.com. Sign up with your Gmail account, and then just drop me an email or a DM, and we'll make sure that we have your account added. But we've added at least 15 or 20 people since I made a little Facebook post about it myself. Special thanks to Wyland's Flowers and Ink and Ale for being a part of the candidate series. Very excited to have them join us again. We think this is a really valuable community service and educational for folks, and they do too. So if you get the opportunity to support them, Really good time to buy your significant other some flowers, or here in April, go check out Ink and Ale. Next week, our show, Judge Joe mentioned the Lincoln Day dinner. That's Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody keeps counter-programming Boss Hog. Tonight, the president's giving a damn speech, right? It's State of the Union night on Boss Hog night. Thursdays are very popular.
Didn't he wait till 9 o'clock? That was at 9 o'clock?
Probably. It's 8:43.
That's
We're
pretty
fine.
late.
We're going to get off the
I
air
said
just
he
before his
waited-
bedtime.
He waited for Boss.
Is Sleepy Joe going to be up at 9 o'clock?
He's getting a shot of adrenaline right now.
So we have adjusted our schedule. Next week is the Lincoln Day dinner, and I said there is no way we're going to be able to get people on Thursday night. So I said, okay, let's try Wednesday. I invited our two friends of the show, the Southern District Commissioner candidates, current Councilwoman Susan Hoon and current County Commissioner Bobby Plummer. They will be joining us on Wednesday next week. Contested commissioner's race, going to be very exciting. I didn't realize that it was the county commissioner's scheduled night, I believe. They have canceled the county commissioners meeting. And they're going to have we're doing Boss Hog
wow.
next Wednesday. So there is no county commissioners meeting. They have given the show the respect that no other group has given us, Dakota.
That's what I
The,
like
ca-
to
the
hear.
county commissioners have cleared county business so that they can appear with us.
That's how you know you've arrived.
We have